Hi, Roy here. I thought I'd pop in to talk about Occult Detective October, things I've been reading over the past few weeks. So there'll be two main parts to this video. First of all, I'll be talking about Occult Detective magazine because I've read all the fiction in the latest issue. So I'll just give a brief sort of summary of that, and then I'm going to introduce you to four possibly new to you series that you could call Occult Detectives as well. So yeah, two chunks of fun. And overall, I suppose the theme is how this genre is so widespread, so diverse. There's, a lot going on. There's always some crazy thing you'd never thought of that could be a kind of an occult detective. That is to say, a supernatural story where somebody has a role doing investigations. Okay, so Occult Detective magazine, it's a book size volume you can get in print and on Kindle. So yes, there's an ebook via that route as well as the printed copy. Just focusing on fiction then. Binori Binori by Rowena Spring is a sort of police procedural type of occult detective story, so it's present day. There's some bizarre grotesquerie, and it's also having focused a lot on detection in various events during the year. So, interesting piece thinking about how the role of the detective is to focus on justice. And I think that counts for occult detectives too. Somehow justice, which might be on a bigger sort of stage than regular crimes, is what's being sought. So that was a good story. Like I say, there's some unsettling stuff in it, but these are horror stories, I suppose. Fae from the Madding Crowd, that's Fae by John Llewellyn Probert. That's an interesting one. Quite a brisk bit of British neo-noir with some sort of M.R. James style horror in it, so enjoyed that. The Gardens of Consamo Brack by John Guy Collick. So here we're in sort of dark fantasy territory, reminding me of Clark Ashton Smith and some other sort of other things of that ilk. So you've got there's world building going on, or sort of sphere building. It's very baroque. There's lots of fun details of this dark and in some ways attractive cosmology, I suppose, with necromancy and all the fun of the fair. So that's a good one. Where Birds Go to Die, Charles Spiteri. This was an interesting one. Actually made me think, where do they go to die? You see many birds, you don't see that many dead birds. And you've got a sort of some genuine oddness, and it's a top adventure and interesting sort of background as well. It's a bit like in Algernon and Blackwood stories. You get the sense of nature. Don't even have to go to supernature, just regular old nature being like this huge, super powerful, overwhelming thing that we don't really know. We don't really understand it. Okay. A Strange Case of Something Familiar. Clutterbuck and Postlethwaite Investigate by Dave Jeffery. With a fabulous illustration by, I think this is one of Bob Freeman's. It's a bit of a sort of mashup of some of the cozy crime tropes with occult detective magic type stuff. It's pretty funny. It rattles along. One of the longer pieces in here, And yeah, strange goings on, reminded me a bit of a Robert Rankin book. Interesting setup, and it feels as if it's unfolding into what could be quite an epic. Twilight Komoribi, not sure how to pronounce that, by Brandon Barrows. So we've got an occult detective story set in Japan, which I found quite moving. There's a sort of elegiac feel about it. It's kind of a spiritual, mystic kind of supernatural, although with an unsettling edge. Lots of imagery that stuck with me. Good one there. And then we get Vinnie de Soth and the Lost Generation by I.A. Watson. So Vinnie de Soth, ongoing character. It's a modern day investigation story. It's a bit sort of down and dirty. It's got some because it's set in an orphanage, it's got some very disturbing, like, real world corollaries, which is fine. You know, I think it's a function of fantasy to provide a different kind of lens onto the real world, but you also get some arcane science that's pretty entertaining as well. So yeah, really strong story there. The Ultimate Shape, a Nathan Gesture adventure by Rhys Hughes. Another one with a illustration here, which I really liked. Now, I don't think Lewis Carroll ever collaborated with Arthur Machen on an occult detective story, but if he did, you could get something like this, which is, for want of a better word, surreal, certainly odd, but without being silly. So I'll leave it there, The Ultimate Shape. Antonio Lo Iacono is the artist of this lovely thing. Let's see what's left. In the world of the fiction, Nobody Man by Thomas Hunt. This again was quite noirish, quite sort of brutal in some ways, based around a great idea for a techno thriller. So there's a drug, the work on a drug that can eliminate loneliness. So the idea is you will always sense the presence of another, even if you are physically alone, even to the point of being in an isolation chamber. What could possibly go wrong? Well, lots and lots. It's a grim and effective story, you know, following through the premise, propulsively plotted. Nice one, Nobody Man. Ah yes, the Boleskine House Affair by Jude Reid. So Aleister Crowley's in this. Boleskine, if you didn't know, was a house in Scotland near Loch Ness, still there. You can sort of see it from the road. And yeah, there are all sorts of goings on there. I think when it comes to Aleister Crowley, there's Crowley's actual writings, which can be difficult but rewarding if you stick with them. There are books about Aleister Crowley, biographies and such, which can be good, but often tend to be a little bit like rock star biographies, into, you know, the sort of debauchery element is played up, whatever that was all about. And then there's fiction with Crowley in it. There's probably quite a canon of that as well. All getting further and further away from the real person and what he was actually trying to say. This is a fun story. You've got what look like series characters again. A really interesting guest appearance by another real person who you need to decode a little bit. And it's like a bit of a locked room mystery, really, in Boleskine. For a while, it looks like it's not going to be supernatural at all. But then, yeah, so that was a great one. And I think that's the last... No, not the last story in the book at all. The Land of Lonesomeness by Sam Gafford is doubly sad because Sam Gafford is no longer on this planet, and it is about the last days of William Hope Hodgson, an author who was killed in the First World War. Not much of a spoiler there, really, and who wrote lots of things that are really good, including creating Thomas Carnacki, the sort of that's where the occult detective ideas came together in a sort of replicatable way. So his last days in the trenches, unknown, obviously, but here we have him literally haunted by his own stories. So good stuff there. Another great picture. And yeah, that's it. So a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of the fiction in Occult Detective magazine, also available in stereo. Now then, series. Said I'd tell you briefly, quickly, about some series you might want to look into. These are all ebooks. Well, they might be all sorts of things. They might be leather-bound grimoires, but the ones I've read are ebook format, which you could do as well. So, starting with Daniel Faust, I've talked about already, and I won't rehash all of that, just to say Craig Schaefer, Daniel Faust series, up to 11 books, linked series with a character called Harmony Black. A lot of those as well, about the same number, I guess, and they sort of interweave, or they're freestanding, whatever you want, the customer, you're always right. Great fun, first person narration, interesting world where there's sort of hellish principalities kind of have territory in the real world, and there's demons, and there's all sorts of magic stuff, and there's an air of not so much the caper movie, but sort of heists and stings seem to be happening as well. So it's really entertaining stuff. I think I've read 3 so far, and I'm going to press on. So recommending Daniel Faust, Craig Schaefer. Then listen to this, never mentioned before on this channel, Alice Bell. 2 books so far, Displeasure Island and Grave Expectations. These are great. Now, we've actually listened to them on audio, and the lead character is a medium. She really can see ghosts. In particular, she has a dead friend who died when she was 17, therefore is always 17, who follows her around. They're together all the time, Randall and Hopkirk style. And the first book is a kind of a country house murder mystery with ghosts. And it also introduces a supporting cast who then follow through into the next one. One thing about them is they're very, very, very funny. In particular, because of the creative and very varied sweariness of them. So you want to hear swearing done well? Get yourself into these books. So Alice Bell, I guess you're at the cosier end of things, but the ghosts are fun, and it's all great, and you're getting in on the ground floor because there's only 2 books so far. And I did mention, I believe, the Inspector Chen series by Liz Williams. These are fairly old now, so near future SF in a world where interactions between our world and the afterlife in a sort of Chinese cosmology are happening in a kind of bureaucratic way, so the way people go to heaven or hell when they die. That sort of stuff is like organised in a pretty upfront way with bureaucracy and admin and email and all that sort of thing. And in that setting, in the first one, which is the one I've read, there's a ghost appears to be in the wrong place, and that turns out to be part of a conspiracy. Inspector Chen, he has a sort of pass to go to hell. He has contact with these beings, which makes him kind of... people are a little bit wary of him, as I suppose you would be. And he ends up partnering up with a demon to resolve the situation. So they're fun. There's 5 of those and some short stories. So Liz Williams, Inspector Chen. And finally, unusually perhaps a series where so far out of 5 books, 1, to my knowledge, you could call an occult detective book. 2, with the same characters, are not. They're police procedural mysteries. The ones I haven't read, I don't know. Obviously, it's possible that the supernatural elements will reappear. I hope they do. So this is the It's Bloody Murder Up North series by J.D. Benn. I found them on Amazon as Kindle Unlimited books. The first one is called The Touch of the Winter Beast. Touch of the Winter Beast. And is set in my area, Lancashire. And that's how I came across them, actually. So what you've got is a regionally set police procedural series. And to me it seems they combine some cosy crime elements, in particular the core team of the police and their sort of other recurring characters. They're a great bunch. It's a workplace, apart from the things they have to do, but as a workplace and how they relate to each other, it's just really well portrayed and really kind of enviable. And you get lots of banter, and it's it is amusing. Combine all that with splattery, bloodthirsty deaths that are kind of over the top, I suppose, hence the title. And you got for the people who know the area, that's fun too, because you've got the regional setting of stuff. So in this first one, without giving it away, there is some effectively done beyond the natural stuff. I pressed on with the others, and I'm having a lot of fun with them. And they stay as I've described. The team, you get lots of personal stuff about the team, and you get the investigations, which are well done. Follow them as sort of that sort of whodunit kind of way. So that's J.D. Benn. It's Bloody Murder Up North, especially in Lancashire. So there you go. Stuff I've read, Occult Detective October, and I'll be back soon with something else. That sounded a bit odd there. The cadence was off. With something else.